Hi everyone, today we reach the final episode of the Gambler Mindset series. In the previous episodes, we talked about why gamblers cannot leave the table, why they demand answers from fate, and why one result can feel like a judgment on their entire life. In this episode, we ask the final question: why do gamblers always manage to turn randomness into fate? A number is supposed to be just a number. One result is supposed to be just probability happening once. But a gambler does not see it that way. He feels that this number means something. This position is a sign. He was almost there, and the next round might finally be right. This is one of the deepest blind spots in the gambler's mind. It is not that he cannot think. In fact, he often thinks too much. The problem is that his thinking is not checking whether a real pattern exists. It is forcing a purpose into randomness. We can call this over-purposeful association. It means taking events that have no purpose, no message, and no hidden arrangement, then reading them as if they have intention, direction, and meaning. He does not see randomness. He sees fate trying to speak to him. Why do people resist randomness? Because randomness is cold. Randomness means this thing may have no special reason. Nobody is reminding you. Nobody is choosing you. The result happened simply because it happened within probability. For a gambler, that answer is hard to bear. If everything is random, then what did his persistence mean? What did his instinct mean? What about all those times he felt, "It's coming soon"? So he would rather believe there is meaning behind the result. Even when he loses, he wants the loss to mean something. Because what truly hurts him is not only losing money, it is admitting that he lost with no meaning at all. At this point, a person has a strong instinct. I need to make sense of this. I cannot let it just happen. I cannot accept that I simply bet wrong, simply missed, simply got swallowed by a system with no expression. So he starts looking for signs. A number, a time, a dream, a seat, or even a casual sentence from someone else can be connected into the same story. On the surface, he is analyzing. In reality, he is finding a reason that can convince him to place the next bet. That is the hardest thing about randomness. It does not comfort people. It does not explain itself. It does not tell you you are close. You almost got it. Hold on a little longer and fate will finally see you. Those words usually do not come from randomness. He adds them himself. The most dangerous thing about over-purposeful association is that it rarely happens before the result. It usually becomes clever only after the result appears. For example, he bets on 7, but the result lands near 7. Normally, that means he missed, but the gambler does not stop there. He looks at the roulette layout. He looks at the distance between that number and 7. He checks whether it was beside 7, or whether it landed in a range that feels almost right. So a losing result gets rewritten as, "I was not completely wrong. I was just one step away. My direction was actually close." That is already dangerous. But the more dangerous part is this. Even if the number has no direct connection to 7, he can slowly connect it anyway. He can look at the previous result, the table position, the color, odd or even, or connect the number to a date, a seat, or even a thought that flashed through his mind. The point is not whether those things are truly connected. The point is that if he wants to connect them, the world starts to look full of clues. This is not prediction. This is story repair. A real prediction must take a risk before the result. It must be able to say, "If this does not happen, then I was wrong." The most dangerous part of over-purposeful association is that it rarely admits it is wrong. Because its explanation space is too large, any result can be processed afterward into some kind of sign. So the gambler rarely stops at "I was wrong." More often, he rewrites failure into near success. That is why almost is so dangerous. It does not feel like total failure. Total failure is cleaner. Wrong is wrong. A miss is a miss. But almost makes him feel close to the answer. As if the method was not wrong, only the luck was slightly off. As if the pattern exists, but he has not fully caught it yet. So he keeps going. Not because he is truly closer to a pattern, but because he cannot bear to give up the feeling of "I am about to understand." Here we need to separate one thing clearly. Human beings need to find patterns. Without a sense of pattern, life becomes hard to navigate. We look at the weather and decide whether to bring an umbrella. We look at someone's expression and sense whether they are upset. When something happens repeatedly, we naturally wonder whether there is a reason behind it. This ability is useful. The problem is that gambling exploits this exact ability. A gambling game does not give you complete information. It gives you fragments that are easy to misread. Numbers, colors, positions, sequences, wins, losses, and near misses. Each one looks like a clue, but each one may only be noise. The gambler's problem is not that he sees nothing. He sees too much. He turns every fragment into a signal. He sees red appear several times and thinks black is due. He sees a number missing for a long time and thinks it is supposed to come soon. He sees that he missed by one position and thinks he is closer to the pattern. The most deceptive thing about randomness is that it sometimes looks like a pattern. A streak is not necessarily a sign. A repetition is not necessarily an arrangement. Being close is not necessarily being close to the truth. Many times, randomness is just being random, but the gambler dislikes that answer because just random feels empty. He would rather believe that he is reading some hidden structure. That is the temptation of a fake pattern. It makes him feel like he is not gambling. He is solving a puzzle. The more desperate he is to win back his losses, the more he needs failure to mean something. This is where the desire to recover losses connects with over-purposeful association. If he is only playing casually, maybe he can still stop after losing. But once he starts thinking, once I get my original money back, I will leave, his thinking tightens. He no longer just looks at the result. He looks for opportunity inside the result. A nearby position, a repeated number, or a sequence that feels familiar can all become reminders. It is not just random. It is not over yet. The chance is still there. Fate has not finished speaking. At this point, over-purposeful association becomes stronger because he no longer only wants to win. He needs a reason to stay. After losing money, if he admits that this is simply failure, then he should stop. But if he can interpret failure as a sign, everything changes. Failure is no longer the end. Failure becomes preparation. He starts to feel that the previous loss was not a mistake, but a clue telling him what to do next. At a more serious stage, gambling can even take on a sense of revenge. He is not only trying to win money, he is trying to overturn the previous failure. He wants to prove that he was not wrong. He wants the casino, or fate, to take back the result it just gave him. At that point, over-purposeful association is no longer just superstition. It becomes psychological fuel. It makes the gambler feel that he is not losing control. He is chasing an answer that has not been completed yet. Many people think only foolish people think this way. Not necessarily. The more someone can think, the more dangerous this can become, because over-purposeful association requires a certain ability. The ability to connect things that are not actually connected. Numbers can be connected to numbers. Positions can be connected to results. Dreams can be connected to numbers. Failure can be connected to the next chance. Intelligence itself is not the problem. The problem is that when intelligence is captured by desire, it becomes a tool serving that desire. The gambler feels that he is analyzing. He says he has instinct, observation, experience, and method. But if these methods only make sense after the result appears, then they are not methods. They are post hoc rationalization. Clear thinking asks a colder question. What would prove me wrong? If no result can prove him wrong, then this is not judgment. It is self-hypnosis. This is why some gamblers sink deeper the more they think. They are not without logic. Their logic is simply too good at turning corners for them. Every failure can become a new explanation. Every random result can become a reason to bet again. The hardest impulse to fight is often not an impulse with no reason. It is an impulse that has already prepared a reason for itself. Because it does not look like loss of control, it looks like thinking. The hardest sentence for a gambler to accept may be, randomness is randomness. It is not reminding you. It is not testing you. It is not hinting at the next round. It also does not become more meaningful just because you badly need an answer. Here we must separate one thing clearly. Mechanism is not fate. The gambler thinks he is interacting with fate, but often he is facing a system with no emotion. The casino will not change probability because of his feelings, urgency, or personal story. It simply runs according to its mechanism, opening rounds, taking bets, and producing the illusion that next time might be different. If the opponent is fate, he can still imagine some relationship with it, as if it is testing him, giving him a chance, or finally choosing him. But if what he faces is mechanism, the truth is colder. Mechanism does not respond to his story. It does not understand his resentment. He can imagine it as fate, but that will not give it a soul. So the key is not, can I explain it? People are too good at explaining. The key is, can this explanation be tested before the result? If it cannot, then it is probably only a story, not a pattern. A real pattern is not afraid of being checked. It can say clearly before the result, this is what I think will happen. If it does not happen, I admit the judgment was wrong. Many of the gambler's explanations do not work like that. They do not limit themselves before the result. They expand themselves after the result. Only after the result appears do they start looking for angles, connections, signs, and a way to make the gambler feel he was not completely wrong. That is why over-purposeful association is so hard to defeat, because it is too flexible. Real judgment has boundaries. Wrong is wrong, but over-purposeful association has no boundary. Anything can be pulled into it. So what the gambler most needs to learn is not how to read fate. It is how to admit, this time there is no answer. It is just a result. Let us return to the whole gambler mindset series. At first, the gambler thinks he is chasing money. Later, we see that he may be chasing a comeback, proof, a response from fate, or an imagined version of himself. In this final episode, we see an even deeper layer. He is not only losing money at the table, he is losing his ability to judge randomness clearly. He turns things with no cause into cause, things with no sign into signs, things with no purpose into arrangements of fate. This is the most dangerous part of over-purposeful association. It makes him feel that he was never completely wrong, that he was only one step away, that next time he will finally grasp the pattern. The cruelest part of gambling systems is this: they do not need to give you a real pattern. They only need to make you believe the pattern is about to appear. Once you believe there must be an answer behind randomness, you will keep asking, keep betting, keep explaining, keep turning failure into the next chance. So what the gambler loses is not only money, not only self-control. In the end, he loses his ability to judge randomness. He thinks fate is speaking, but it is only the roulette wheel spinning. He thinks he is about to understand, but it is only desire writing stories over randomness. And the hardest moment of clarity is admitting, some results have no meaning. Some near misses are not signs that you are getting closer. Some next rounds are not opportunities. They are just the same trap, opening again in a slightly different form.